Hello, I'd like to talk about more about how directing voice acting went and our whole sort of experience getting the voice acting for Neverending Nightmares. Firstly, this is the first time well, that's poorly worded. But anyway, this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. The Retrograde, we designed it not to have VO because it's tough for localization, finding actors in other languages and getting them, the timing right. So, I mean, for Neverending Nightmares, we're just screwing that. It's English only, and then we'll just do subtitles for the localization, which probably is okay. And if not, too bad. Tough cookies. That's all we can do. But I think it's challenging because I mean certainly you want to find the right person for the voice and just from someone's audition, maybe their voice doesn't quite sound like how you pictured the character, but if you're working with someone who's very talented in voice acting, oftentimes they have a lot of control over their voice, and we're very fortunate to work with experienced voice actors, Elizabeth Maxwell and Josh Grelle, who both do a lot of voice work for anime and other video games and things like that. So they were very good at sort of saying, oh, can you do it a little higher, a little lower, this is what matches the character. And I imagine, that's not true of every actor, because, like, I don't know, I didn't really work on, but Heavy Iron did the SpongeBob SquarePants, the movie, the game, which I probably have here. And so, I don't know if you saw the movie or played the game, but Scarlett Johansson was Mindy, I think, King Neptune's daughter, and so, like, she sounds exactly like Scarlett Johansson, which maybe is what they asked for, but, like, I imagine for some voice acting, you might want to hire someone, of the acting caliber of Scarlett Johansson, but, doesn't, is able to do a little bit more, especially for a cartoon character. Because, I mean, like, I don't know, I felt like the voice was totally wrong for the character, and, maybe, I'm not saying ScarJo couldn't do it, but, it'd be nice if she sounded a little more cartoony. But, I mean, like, when we were working with like, Elizabeth and Josh, we could say, oh, that's too cartoony, or maybe a little more cartoony, or things like that, and, like, oh, what pitch do we want this to be at? So, I mean, it was kind of interesting because, well, it's kind of tough to express, to direct, and say, oh, this is what the character is thinking, and this is what they should sound like. But hopefully I did a pretty decent job, and I actually video recorded all the voiceover sessions on 3 memory cards or whatever, and so, I don't know, I'll probably put together some sort of behind-the-scenes video after we release, but for now I don't want any spoilers for dialogue or whatever, so I'm just talking about my impressions, my experience. So, I mean, fortunately Eduardo was really on the ball as well, and he was saying, like, oh yeah, this doesn't quite work, and so it wasn't just on me, because I mean I was kind of nervous, and like I've heard, oh yeah, you don't want to say a line a certain way and then expect the voice actors to do it that way, or like, I mean sometimes how people act, how people get in the mindset of a character is sort of different than how one would, and so I mean, how someone else would, and so that was sort of one of the interesting things about Thomas, is that I did the line readings for Thomas, and so I mean I wouldn't say I'm a good actor, but I mean I think I did a decent job. I mean in general I don't think my voice sounds very good. I don't know if you watch a lot of Developer Diaries and you're like, yeah, I love the sound of his voice, but like, I once had a sound designer I worked with tell me, I don't know if you know this, but your voice, it sounds really froggy. It's just like really annoying and embarrassing, or annoying and bad. I can't remember exactly what he said, but basically it was, I don't know if you know this, but your voice sounds terrible. And it's like, I didn't know that. Thank you. Now I know for the rest of my life that I have a terrible sounding voice. And it's just like, So, certainly, as much as I liked my line readings, and someone in the survey said that they were really good and we could keep them, but we're not keeping them. But that made me feel a little bit better about my terribly froggy sounding voice that apparently everyone secretly hates and doesn't tell me, except this one guy. But but anyway, so what I was getting at is that I had done the line readings, and so, one of the things is, like, I had a certain reading in mind, and that wasn't sort of the performance I was getting, and I think, to some extent, right, like, that's something that you sort of have to expect and sort of have to roll with, just because, how different people, act is going to be different, and if you try and force a performance a certain way, I think it's going to end up, sort of half-assed, and you have to respect the actors, interpretation of the character to some extent, but also you can't, sort of, let them just do whatever and get something you're unhappy with. So it's sort of a challenging thing. And it's a balancing act, and especially when you have just sort of the idea of, oh, this is exactly what the character's doing because I did it myself. Then it's a little harder, but I mean, fortunately, I was worked with very talented people, and Eduardo and Elizabeth and Josh really did a great job, and I think we're able to get really great performances. But I think to some extent, like, and we actually spent a lot more time on the things you don't think about and the things that are very important for like voice acting that maybe you wouldn't think of. So like, we had the voice actors record all the breathing. So like, obviously asthma is a big mechanic if you play Neverending Nightmares, at least beyond the original Kickstarter demo build. But yeah, asthma is sort of an important mechanic in the game, and so there's a lot of this labored breathing, and so we got the voice actors to do all this labored breathing, and it's really hard, and we'd have them do it for a while, and then they get dizzy, and and the other thing is, since it's a horror game, we have a lot of screams, and we have some amazing sort of blood-curdling screams and terrible screams, and that's tough, and a lot of crying and a lot of things like that, and so it's really tough. And then one of the things that I thought was interesting, just to watch, and again, when I put together the behind-the-scenes things, but a lot of times the voice actors will essentially act out they'll give a performance, even though only their voice is being picked up, and I thought that was interesting to see how much regular acting there is behind the voice acting, and honestly I would say that voice acting is much harder than regular acting, because you only have the voice to communicate the emotions through, whereas like, right, like, you're looking at my face, and like, that's a sad face, right? That's easy, but trying to create sounds like whimpering or whatever to accompany my sad face, I think would be a challenge, and that's one of the things in Neverending Nightmares. We don't do a lot of facial animation just because we don't have the time or the resources, and so I think in a lot of these cutscenes, right, like, it's going to be the dialogue that the performance of the voice actors that's going to carry it, and I think we did a really good job, and I think the game is going to feel a lot better. The story and everything. I mean, because we get some negative feedback. Oh, the story doesn't make sense, or oh, this writing isn't that great, or whatever. And I mean, all of those things may be true, but I think to some extent, having the better performances, having the different recordings of the talented voice actors makes the writing seem better, makes the story seem better, and I think, I think people are going to be pretty pleased with what we put together. I mean, obviously, I think in general the endings are kind of cryptic, and people are still not going to be super pleased with them, but nothing I can do about that, and I don't think the voice actors can save that. But I mean, overall, I think it's going to make a huge difference. And I mean, certainly, I think it's interesting because we had a very sort of public alpha and development builds, and I mean, so we had to put in the voice acting, but. One of the interesting things is if you watch the Double Fine Adventure documentaries, which are like super good. I like binge watched them on a trip, and I like love them to death. Even though I make games and really I should know everything they do already, but I mean, obviously I had a lot of familiarity with things they were going through. But even still, I was like addicted. And I mean, I think, had I not known about game development, it would be a great sort of place to begin to learn about the journey to making a game. But they also had people around the office record the temp audio and then animate to that. And then at the end, once the script's finalized, once all that stuff, then they got the actual recordings, and then they had to retime cutscenes, which we had to do some of, and things like that. So, yeah, we're not the only ones who make a game with maybe less than great temp VO, and so certainly we're going to release the next builds with actual VO. But I just I don't know. I mean, I think it's something that has to be done. To get the timings, to get everyone happy with it, and then, usually the VO and something comes last. And so it's just been sort of an awkward position to show the game and say, like, hey, this is all temp, it's going to get way better, but it's kind of crappy right now. But hopefully we won't have to make that excuse anymore. Anyway, thanks for watching.